Can we please start? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yep. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Bro.
Nobody else is gonna get the joke.
Read this book podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Duncan.
And I'm your other host, Matthew Meadows.
How dare you interrupt that? You just keep on trucking.
Sorry.
Just
Sorry.
keep moving.
Sorry,
it's
man.
for us.
Yeah, that is for us. I'm
That's
not even
for
gonna.
us.
I'm not even gonna attempt to explain it.
No,
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm really tired.
Yeah.
As I just mentioned in the cut section 5 minutes ago, I missed out on 3 hours of sleep last night because I woke up. Don't say it. I woke up at 2:15 in the morning and did not go back to sleep until 5 in the morning.
Can I tell you something though? You didn't lose 3 hours of sleep. You gained 3 hours of life.
You know, this is kind of okay. I've got something for this now. Oh wait, sorry. Wow, it's like that's the first time you've said that, and it's really
You're gonna be
profound, and blah blah
and-
blah. That's like when a sibling gets married and someone like tries to make you feel better by
Mhm.
saying like, "Oh, you're not losing a sister, you're gaining, a brother." It's like, first of all, I didn't ask for that.
Yeah. Also, I never said I was losing a sister. Like, she's still here. Like, I don't, like, she's still my sister.
Yeah,
But that's like a crazy thing to say.
I know, but it's not uncommon.
I
It's
know.
not uncommon at all.
Yeah,
Why do we say that?
I don't know.
Such a.
I
such a
get the
strange
point
thing.
about like gaining a brother or whatever, like gaining a brother or
Yeah.
sister, but like, you didn't lose anything.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of like really morbid
A little bit.
and also not true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's less profound than what I said.
Yeah.
What I said was way more profound and makes sense. We're lucky to be alive, Steven.
We're lucky. We are lucky to be alive and podding.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Good.
Yeah. That hurt my feelings. Not really.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
not
sorry.
really. Not really. Not really.
Oh man. Hey, the banter section is a dangerous place.
Yeah. So you
Shots were flying.
Didn't sleep at all.
No, I mean, I slept for almost 4 hours until I woke up, and then I had probably like a 45-minute nap.
That's really all you need.
Yeah. A 45-minute nap from 5:15 to 6.
Yeah, dude, I've been waking up like on the dot at like 7:10. Like,
Huh.
I don't have anything to go do.
Yeah.
I don't have a job at the moment.
Right.
So it's like I just kind of lay there. I'm like, well, actually, no, that's not true. I would lay I lay there. I listen to like an audiobook
Mm.
or like I think about what we need to do for the show or like for social media and stuff or like an article I want to write for Medium. And then I get out of bed and I go do the things.
Or you like think about how grateful you are that you're awake at 7:10 a.m.
Because if I woke up at 9, I would have lost 2 hours. But I gained 2 hours back.
yeah, you didn't lose 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You gained an hour and 50 minutes.
That's really
of,
profound, Steven.
of a brother. Oh.
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
I was about to.
No, I know. I was just, like
I was just gonna see if you had
I was
anything
anticipating
to add
it.
to that joke
No, nothing.
Yeah.
It's run its course, I believe.
a long time ago.
My leg is asleep.
Oh no!
It's losing an hour of
Wake up! Like it's losing an hour of life.
So I have recently gotten back into theater. So I teach theater as my job currently. And I am acting again and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So I wanted to let the pod know I've been cast as Prince Topher, which is Prince Charming in Cinderella, and Little John, the very small man in in Robin Hood. He's not small. That's like the joke. They call him little because he's large and not small.
I had a really good sense of humor in the 1400s.
Yeah. And so I will be doing that. And I'll update everybody on that as it goes. It's really fun to be back doing it again. It was such a big part of my life for such a long time,
Yeah.
and then it just wasn't anymore.
For a minute.
Yeah, and so now it's nice to be kind of pursuing it again. However that ends up panning out, it's just nice to be involved.
Yeah.
Nice to be around it. Other than that, man, I've been on a little bit of a reading slump, I would say, which is okay. I'm not stressed out about it. I've still read 2 books this month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not stressing about it. I think I'll
It's
finish.
still early in the month.
Yeah. Well,
It's only the 8th.
that's true.
Oh, no. I just... Now
Steven,
people know when we're recording
this episode does not come out until like 2 weeks from now. It's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
I'll forgive you eventually.
You can also just cut it out, but
I'm not going to do that.
that's fair.
So
Effort? God.
I had to cut out a significant section of the last episode,
I know.
actually.
I know.
So I'm not above doing
I almost just mentioned what you had to cut out by name.
Yeah.
Just so that you would have to go and cut this out right here.
That would be annoying. But do you want to do the bro weekly check-in?
Let's do it. Sounds like it's going to be a little bit shorter this time.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
I can't use my phone because...
It's over there
Yep.
recording.
Yep.
I have read what just happened?
Everything's okay.
Okay.
My chapstick.
Oh, well, you need that. The first book I read, actually, coincidentally, is the script for Robin Hood. It is a book. Like it's like a longer script for the show. It's like 150 pages. So I read that. Just like novella
Did
length.
you count that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read it. What do you mean? Did I count it? It's like longer than like several novellas that I've read.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I had to think about it. I didn't say I didn't.
I mean, plays
say
are
I
also
disagree.
published as books. Like Shakespeare. Like those are plays.
Like how I have.
That's
Podcast
so
and that?
funny.
Yeah.
Steven is currently on his iPad. He opened it, and the Bro Read This Book podcast was what was on his screen.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I counted it. It was on Goodreads, so I counted it. And then
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Sure.
And then the other book I read I've read so far this month was Jade City, and let me tell you, that book is awesome. I'll talk about it. It'll have its own episode, I think, when I finish the series. But it's so unique. It's like urban fantasy.
Okay.
And the magic system is based on like a natural resource, which is just jade.
This is by N.K. Jameson?
Nope. Fonda Lee.
Oh.
N.K. Jemisin did the 5th season, which I have read like 100 pages of.
Okay.
And
Why did I oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Same kind of. Well, there is stone and like stuff involved with that.
I think I just got confused because we were talking about her other book that
Yeah.
we both just purchased recently.
Yeah. No, this one's by Fonda Lee. It's like Asian inspired urban fantasy.
Okay.
It's very cool. Really, really unique. There's like kind of like gang related stuff too. Very like territorial
Mm-hmm.
conflict. Lots of twists that like after a couple of them happened, I was like, okay, we gotta lock in.
Yeah.
I actually listened to it, and I listened to maybe like a third of it in one sitting
Yeah.
because it was so good, like the
Yeah.
end of it. And also the audiobook narrator speaks so clearly that I listened to it on like 3 times speed. And got every single word from this narrator.
That's impressive.
They are insane.
Yeah.
That normally is, I normally can't do that.
Yeah.
I'd normally top out like 2.25.
3x is tough. I can't do 3x unless I'm also like reading it at the
Yeah.
same time.
But yeah, 3x, I was like playing a game and like listening to it.
Wow.
I wonder what that says about my brain. I need to maybe, I don't know. I just feel like I need
Talk to a mental health
Yeah.
professional about that.
Yeah. I'll bring it up in therapy.
The guy who just talked about wanting to create a epic fantasy about a character with anxiety.
Yeah. It's
Huh.
yeah, I know.
Imagineer that.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a spoiler. I was talking about a book I want to write. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's very unrelated, but I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to finish the series. There's 2 other books.
Okay. Cool.
So it's not like a super long series, which is nice. And honestly, again, it's published by the same people who publish The Expanse by Orbit Books.
Oh.
Every book that they publish is absolute gold.
Orbit's not the same ones that did Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose, are they?
Sure is.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you are just an Orbit fanboy.
Yep.
Yeah, like hardcore. You should
Oh,
get
yeah.
like a jersey.
If they had them, I'd buy one.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for them to email me back about something. So
A jersey?
no, about a different thing that I am
An
not.
advanced reader copy?
Yes.
Aha.
But I don't think I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's fine. I'm keeping my eyes peeled for it on NetGalley, the new, which is where I get a lot of my arcs.
I've heard of that, and I really need to start exploring that.
Yeah. I did a bad thing, and I have not read one of the arcs that I got
Oh no.
yet, and so
What happens if you
my
don't
feedback
read it?
rating is low.
Oh.
It's like it got hit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And it needs to be like good to get
Yeah.
review copies.
Did it just not grab you, or?
Yeah, that I read like a little bit of it, and I'll give it another shot because I do want to read it.
Yeah.
I think I can read it pretty quickly, so I'll probably read it this month. But I just don't know. I wasn't in the mood for it at the time.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Steven,
Mhm.
what about you?
So I'm also pretty slowed down this month so far. Since the last time we spoke, I've finished one of the books that I was currently reading, and then I was actually reading both of these when we last talked, and then one more. So I've only added 3 since we
Mhm.
talked the last time. So I'm right there with you. I've finished Mexican Gothic.
Mhm.
I wrote an article about it on Medium. We'll put links in the description for it. I really enjoyed it. I did give that one a 5-star review.
Wow, nice.
And I may do an episode on this one. I don't know. We'll see. I think what I enjoyed about it was how immersive it was.
Mhm.
Like, it really pulls you into the whole universe.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we both particularly love about horror, where like the location is a character essentially, and you have a limited location.
Yeah.
So your brain doesn't have to do quite as much
I
work.
know that I'm going to love this book.
Yeah, I
Like,
think you are.
I know that I'm going to like it.
Yeah, and it's just, it's good. It's got that classic horror vibe and all that, and I think I said all that when I was talking about it as a currently reading. But that held up all the way through,
Mhm.
and the resolution was fun. I enjoyed it. I've read a lot of people's negative feedback. It seems like people either rave about this book or don't get it and rate
Sure.
it very lowly. And I feel like the people who rate it very lonely just lonely.
It's okay. Just keep going.
Maybe I'll bring that up to my therapist. Excuse me, have you ever heard of Sigmund Freud and his slips? Yeah, so the lonely people who rate this with a low rating are, I think, not into the genre and
Sure.
the way that like gothic horror is styled. That seems to be the vibe. And people say like, oh, it's just nothing happens. It's so slow. And it's like, well, that's not really accurate at all. But okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So, no, it was fantastic. I'll probably talk about it in the very near future because there's a lot to talk about
Yeah.
with it. It's one of those that I feel like good horror inspires some creativity in your mind and
Sure.
like makes you think about things, and this
Yeah.
book does that.
That's
So
awesome.
lots to talk about there. I finished book 1 of the Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I 3.5 starred it. It's an intro book.
Yeah. Very
you know,
much like
some,
groundwork. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's some really great moments in it. They set up the villain so well. He's one of my favorite book villains I've ever read at this point already. He's fantastic. And I'm in the second book right now.
Cool.
And it's very good.
Good.
It's like a 4.5 star so far. And then I read the sequel to Everybody in My Family Has Killed Someone. Everyone on this train is a suspect.
I didn't realize it had a sequel.
It just came out. Like
Very cool.
in January or February. It just came out. Yeah, and it was very good.
Good.
I actually think I won't say I enjoyed it more than the first one. I enjoyed it as much, and it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one has like a lot of location and story to it and a ton of characters. This one takes place on a train, and so a limited scope of characters, a limited scope of possibilities. It's a lot easier to like keep track of the narrative and the story and everything. So yeah, if you like everyone in my family has killed someone, I think you will love Everyone on This Train as a Suspect.
Cool.
Very fun.
Good, dude.
Yeah, so that's my catch up on the Bro Weekly check-in.
Cool. Well, before we get into the conversation we're gonna have this week, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Tether. Tether is a Louisville-based software company, and we've been using Tether for quite a while now. Salute. Tether's organized all of our contacts, automated our email and text marketing, and made it way easier to post on social media with their awesome social media planner. It does a lot of other customer relationship and sales stuff as well. Tether is at a price point that even small businesses like ours can afford. It's simple to use, and their customer support is awesome. Check out the link in our bio and description for more info. So, in addition to Tether, we are also now on Patreon. We have a Patreon page where every month, if you pay $1, you'll get a newsletter from us. You'll be able to submit topics for us to talk about on the show. And we'll mention you on each episode, which we will do now. Jeffrey and Freddie, thank you very much. Let's get into what we want to talk about this week, which is the duology of The Monk and the Robot by Becky Chambers. Ho, 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 ho.
Merry
Christmas. So for those of you who need a refresher, recently I spoke about A Song for the Wild Built. It is a cozy cyberpunk sci-fi little novel that asks a lot of big questions. And you don't really get any answers because they're questions that we ask ourselves on a daily basis. Why are we here? What are we here for? What is my purpose? Follows a T-Monk named Dex on their journey of self-discovery, trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Along the way, they meet a robot named Moscap, who casually drops to Dex that humans and robots have not been in contact for hundreds of years, and this is the first time that they have been in contact since the beginning of the time when robots developed consciousness and went away from humans. So we follow their journey where Dex has a lot of questions and Moscap tries to answer and kind of succeeds in letting Dex know that they are right where they should be and that they're doing okay. And that they're going to be okay. And so that's the first book. Steven, you recently read that as well as the second book, Pray for the Crown Shy.
Yeah.
What's that one about?
So the second book picks up like literally right after the first book leaves off. And the second book is to me, it felt much more like a road trip book. Because it's very like they visit multiple locations. And that's kind of the point. Like Moscap wants to visit, his whole purpose in his journey was to visit humans and see how they were doing and ask the fundamental question of, what do you need? What do humans need? And so essentially sibling Dex is guiding Moscap around to the various cities and helping him interact and kind of almost serving as like an interpreter of sorts, like a social interpreter for all of the quirky human things that Moscap doesn't quite understand. So it's a lot of like they go to a city, events happen, and then Moscap has questions and Dex tries to answer them. It's very different than the first book, I'd say. It is quite different because it's not just two characters interacting. It's the same two characters interacting with a bunch of other people. So it puts them in a bunch of different positions and allows the author to ask many different types of questions. So they interact in, I think, 2 or 3 different cities, and then they also end up visiting Dex's family. And then they end on the beach. Hanging out. Waiting, like putting off going to like the biggest city. So that's the second book.
So what did you think? I've been waiting for this moment for quite a while.
Like weeks.
Because I was so adamant that he needed to read this book. I checked his Goodreads, and he did not give it a great score.
I didn't give it a bad score either.
No.
I gave it the middle score.
Yeah. So I just have been racking my brain, and we have not talked about it. So I'm very excited to hear what you think about
Well,
it.
and here's the thing. Like, I have 1-starred things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I actually hated it,
Yeah.
Like
I know.
like you
I
like
just like
to
giving
say
you
I do.
I like giving you crap about it because I gave it like 5 stars.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is gonna change your life.
You were like 5 stars, fireworks.
Yeah.
This will
Pew, pew, pew.
this will change
You've never read a book better than this
your
one.
brain chemistry.
Yeah.
This is all the
You're like,
things.
oh, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's fine.
You're like, this impacted me more than the holy scriptures.
Yeah.
of the Lord. Like
And you're just like, oh,
No.
I thought it was okay.
no holy text ever written
Yeah.
has ever been as good as a Song for
Obviously.
the Wild Built.
Exaggeration, kind of. But I did have a lot of good things to say about it.
Yeah. It's like not as good as First John, but definitely better than Second and Third John,
For sure.
and maybe like on par with Jude.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's like you get what you get what you put in.
Sure. Sure.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I want to hear
Okay.
what you
all right,
have to
all
say.
right, all right. And honestly, I'll kind of just launch out a
Yeah.
couple of things, and we'll see how that lands and what you come back with. And I think the good stuff will be in hashing it out
Yeah.
between the 2 points of
Yeah.
view, rather than me having some profound statement about the work. So my main problem that takes 2.5 stars away from the book for me, my main problem is I find the character of Dex so unlikable in the first book.
Mhm.
Like, unlikable, breaking that down into the longing for purpose and meaning comes across less of that and more of general like discontent and like it's just like sad. not like, oh, I really want to find my purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated that I can't. And I'm frustrated that I'm not finding the meaning in these things that I'm trying
Mhm.
to find meaning in. So I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to keep doing this thing. It's more like, oh, I tried this and I'm still not happy. And
Yeah.
now I'm on this journey and I've got all these questions and it just doesn't I just don't understand and I'm still not happy and I don't have any purpose. And like, it's just, they come across as very kind of woe is me
Mhm.
through the whole thing. And I don't have a problem with that kind of character journey. I just prefer something a little bit like likable or redeemable in the character. Like, I can put up with a like horrible character if there's something touching or
Sure.
redeemable or something like that. So on the other end of the spectrum, like the best part of the book by far is the character of Moscap, the robot. Loved that character. But
Yeah.
let's imagine for a second that I didn't care for his whole vibe
Mhm.
or its whole vibe. There's still something so redeemable in Moscap because
Yeah.
he's trying so hard to like help this human
Yeah.
figure their crap out.
Yeah.
You know? The actions that they take, the heart that it's coming from is good, even if I didn't like their personality,
Yeah.
which I did. But that's just as an example.
Yeah.
So with sibling Dex and their whole journey and mind frame about everything, I just struggled so hard to find anything to like latch on and connect to because their whole vibe just grated on me.
Sure.
And it enriches Moscap's character because we'll get into this more with the sequel. Dex is way more tolerable in the sequel.
Yeah.
But it's only because of the influence of Moscap.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so that was my main problem. I love the world. I love the like very simple lore of it. The setup of it is great. They don't the author doesn't like overdo how long they spend on it, and I really love that. It was just the main character I could not get into.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a problem of the questions that were being asked or the conversations back and forth. It was just that character. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that was truthfully the main problem that I had with the first one.
Sure.
And I'm assuming that it's a personal problem, because I don't think it's that the character was poorly written or anything like that. So I'm not trying to take a shot at the author or the, you know, how she chose to create the character. It was just did not care for the character themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main issue with Psalm.
So I can see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to offer you a counterpoint.
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
So I think, because I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you that Dex comes across as hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because they are hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
They're going on this journey, right? Of when they go to do what they're trying to do, there's no mention of them getting back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no thought that they've had of returning.
Mm-hmm.
You can only assume that they're doing this without knowing that they're going to be fine and they're going to be okay after this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hopelessness, I think, comes from a sense of desperation rather than a sense of a laziness or like woe is me thing. So it's like, I think that it's so honest is what I like about it. Because there are moments in my life where I've felt that way. Where it's, and honestly, when I was reading this book, that was one of the moments in my life where I was like, I'd feel like I'd have nothing going for me. Like, I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't feel like I had something to latch onto that was me.
Right.
Or for me. And so when I read this book, because and you and I are in very different kind of life circumstances. For me, Dex's character was very comforting. So even though they were going through all this, not doing a whole lot, it seemed, to fix it, it was really nice for me to know that that was not just me who felt that way. And so, like, reading a book where the main character is very flawed and has a lot of kind of emotional stuff going on that they don't really know how to talk about. They don't really know how to navigate. And then having Moscap come along for them and them having somebody in their life that was trying to guide them through these questions was very impactful for me at the time that I read it. Because it almost felt like I was in Sibling Dex's position. And so reading the book, hearing thoughts that I have had or it was having at the time, written out in this fantastical world, and the simplest answers being, oh yeah, you're probably just going to be fine. You know, like, it's going to be okay.
Right.
Was so like earth shattering for me at the time. Because you know those things, especially somebody who has gone through change before. It's like, you know, at the end of whatever you're going through now, you're going to be fine. But it's always good to hear it. And so I think the hopelessness that Dex portrays is not a character flaw, but almost they're at like this point of no return where if something doesn't change, they're going to go insane.
Yeah.
And I think a good indication of that for sibling Dex is when they transition to become a T-Monk and they spend all this time, put all this effort, all this energy, become the literal best at it, and are still not fulfilled. I don't think it's a lack of purpose that they're feeling. It's a lack of fulfillment. And so it's like, for me personally, I put a lot of effort into my job. I got promoted at my job. I was doing very well, was on track for probably a raise very soon, and felt so unfulfilled in the role. And there's a moment in the book where Dex is like, they got off the road that they knew they were they'd traveled down 100 times and took a path they'd never seen before. And so it's like, even just the act of that for Dex would have been huge for them. And so my biggest like counterpoint with what you were saying is, I don't view them as like, woe is me. I view them as really tired and honest and real.
Sure.
So it's like, and I was really interested when I read your review about it, because that you had mentioned that and we had talked about it a little bit, and that was completely different than what I had read the character as.
Right.
And I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah. And here's where, so to get a little deeper into it, I think that I would have accepted their internal struggle and their journey through these feelings a lot more openly if they had been alone for more of it. So, and here's what I mean. For the very brief portion of time that from when they decide to go off trail and go on this quest and they're by themselves, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And hearing their internal thought process, and even hearing the, oh, but what about this? And why do I feel like this? And asking all these questions internally and struggling to come up with answers for themselves, that I found very engaging.
Yeah.
That I was interested in. And I'm just thinking through this now, like I would be very curious about a version of this book in which Moscap does not come along until significantly later. And Dex has had more time, or we've had more time with Dex by themselves.
Yeah.
Just wrestling through these questions internally.
Yeah.
As they're going through this journey and encountering things and interacting with all these new experiences of the wild, but alone and still struggling through these things. And then they can interact with Moscap. That's probably where the unlikability came from for me. It wasn't that, they tried to find fulfillment in becoming a T-Monk, became the literal best, and then decided that this isn't working for me. I need to do something else. That didn't bother me. Like I can relate to that. I can understand that feeling. Here's what I didn't like is I felt like the way that Dex allowed themselves to behave and interact to Moscap was disrespectful to Moscap.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. They were so absorbed in their own crap that they were missing this awesome being in front of them.
Yeah.
And not able to kind of put their own stuff to hedge it even a little bit in order to really have a good back and forth. That's where I think it was. So the frustration came more from how they chose to interact with the character of Moscap and how they chose to present their issues to Moscap than in the issues themselves.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that I do see what you're saying, and that makes sense to me.
And you're nicer than sibling Dex.
That's true.
And you're more considerate than sibling.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I sit here, because as you were explaining, like well, I related to this character. I was like, I'm such a, I'm so mean.
No,
but then I was like, wait a second. There's more to it than just I don't like the flaws. It's not that.
I do get that, because I think there were a couple times where I was like, that was kind of mean.
Yeah.
To say to them, like to Moscap. And so like that's one of the things that I kind of agree with you on. I do think though that they are also probably, like, to be frank, annoyed that Moscap is there, and I think it's mentioned that they're annoyed that Moscap is there.
Sure.
And so like, not like to justify it, but they don't really know what's happening either.
Mm-hmm.
Like so they're like trying to figure out, okay, this robot thing, I don't know what this is. Like,
sure.
I'm the first human to come in contact with a robot in 300 years. It doesn't behave like a person. And so it's like, I think if it was another person there with Dex, different conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different conversation.
Yeah.
I think because, again, not to like justify it, because I do agree with you, but I think Dex probably was having a hard time figuring out how to interact with Moscap.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the book, actually, one of my favorite parts of the book, aside from the ending, this is not kind of, it's not really a spoiler, when they're cooking food and Dex can't eat without offering it to Moscap first.
Yeah.
And Moscap has to tell
That's not
Dex,
even at the end. That's the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Moscap has to tell Dex, no, you can have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Dex is so, this is what I think it is. Dex is so ingrained with human characteristics and attributes that they don't know how to interact with something that behaves outside of their like structure of how somebody should behave when you talk to them.
Could be.
Yeah. And so, and Moscap's also very direct with what it says. Yep. And so it's like, I feel like there's a lot of nuance, and I agree with you, but the book is so short too, that I think it loses maybe the potential for, and actually I think that the second book, I was going to say, I think the second book, they've had more time together, and Dex understands Moscap more. So I think that, and I think the reason you like Dex better in the second book is because they're treating Moscap like a person in the way that they speak to it, instead of robot and person.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think that the character development does not happen in the first book.
Sure.
I think as a duology, there is a lot of character development for Dex.
Yeah.
And so I think if you only read the first book, you rate books based on themselves.
Yes.
You don't rate a book based on the series.
Right.
So yeah, I totally, yeah.
And that's the thing is, you got to read both of them.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know if Song for the Wild Book is, because I read it knowing that there was a second book. If I didn't know there was a second book, I don't know if I would have liked it as much. Because that's kind of short. Like, that's kind of lame.
Sure.
You know?
And even the resolution feels a little unfinished.
Yeah.
If you don't know that there's more to the story.
Yeah. And so that's a really interesting point too, because I wonder, but it couldn't have been published as one book because there's too much time that happens, or time that passes between the books, I think. Or just like, all right, now we're out of the wilds, we're back on the road.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it would be interesting for the book to have them getting out of the wild and back onto the road. You know what I mean? But yeah, so the second book does focus a lot more on Moscap. So how did you feel about the second book?
Yeah, I just enjoyed the second book overall a lot more.
Yeah.
The rough edges of Dex's character got smoothed out a lot for me. So I enjoyed their interactions with Moscap more. I enjoyed their banter and their conversations more. Hey, you're probably right. There was a level of comfortability with each other that they had. So that's where it again, like I said earlier, it feels more like kind of a road trip
Yeah.
story, which I enjoy that kind of story, quite honestly.
Is
It's a
your
lot of fun.
basement leaking?
Yeah, it is a little bit. Look at that. A lot of rain.
Is that normal?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is not a surprise.
Okay, great. Surprise me.
No,
We're flooding.
that's all good.
Okay, cool.
Can you swim?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So anyway, yeah, it was just fun to watch the two characters interact with others.
Mhm.
Ask questions of each other, try to like rationalize and figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
And different
I
comments
think
that people make.
in a lot of ways, their roles are flipped in this book.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Here's how I think. After finishing it, I thought this is an interesting view of friendship
Mhm.
because sibling Dex is like kind of low-key horrible in the first book, in my point of view, from my reading of it. And through their relationship with Moscap, becomes a more hopeful and well-rounded individual.
Yeah.
Moscap, after going from being completely confident and self-assured and satisfied with who they are and their place and everything, becomes a bit more insecure
Mhm.
and questioning.
Yeah.
By the end of the second book, probably by virtue of their relationship to sibling Dex. And so I think that it's an interesting perspective on friendship. It's not necessarily a bad thing in either direction. Obviously, it's great for sibling Dex
Yeah.
because they only benefit from their relationship to Moscap.
Yeah.
You look at Moscap and you're like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Would you have been better off to live your sort of simple, contented life with no influence from, someone with a lot of questions and a lot of discontentment? Would you have been better off, or will you long-term be better off for having to work through questions and discontentment?
So I think I want to not push back, but I do want to. I don't know if it's sibling Dex that impacts him as much as it's the culture shock that he has with all of the literal zero knowledge of humans to now being flooded with everything. Everything's new. Everything is new. He's like, I could have a satchel. And so it's like he gets a bag and he's freaking out about it.
Yeah.
So it's like that to me is maybe more so his internal struggle of there's so much I thought that I knew that I don't know. And so I'm sure that sibling Dex's questions affect that, but I would say maybe more so the lack of information to now having all of the information, and he's reading 50,000 books a day on his computer.
The only reason that I wouldn't say I think that that's true is because of their last set of conversations. And because the reason that they are hesitating and kind of pausing to go to the last stop in their destination is because they understand that once they get there and finish that process, their relationship will never be the same.
Yeah.
And something is going to change. A chapter is going to end.
Yeah.
And it's much more a struggle with how, I think this works, with how Moscap feels about its relationship to sibling Dex than fear of going to this next thing, because he deals with all this new stuff really well and really methodically.
Yeah.
There's a couple of hard decisions that he has to work through,
Yeah.
but he works through them and is comfortable with where he lands, where it lands. And so I think it, by virtue of how the characters themselves
Sure.
admit to their
Interact in that,
struggle in that final set of conversations, it does have to do with the relationship itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wasn't saying that. I don't think it has anything to do with it. But I was just saying I think a lot of that like uncertainty comes, especially like when the scene where Dex is explaining the PEB system to Moscap. Moscap cannot understand that.
Yeah.
Like, because that's completely foreign to him. So it's like, I think it's a both and thing. Like, I think that Moscap develops an attachment to Dex, and by virtue of attachment, anytime you have friends, you're going to, if you care about them and if they care about you, you're going to pick up on their feelings and emotions. If you're not insane, or if you are an empathetic person, you're going to pick up on people you care about, what they're feeling. What's the word for somebody who doesn't do that? Sociopath? Is that right?
Socio or psycho?
Like doesn't like care about other people's feelings?
Narcissist.
Sure. If you're one of those things, then maybe you don't. But I think that a functioning, like, generally a relationship like that, you're gonna pick up on that stuff. And so I think you're right that it does have a lot to do, and especially when they're like, oh, I like this. Like, I don't want this to be done. Like, I don't want to not be friends anymore, if that's whatever happened. So it's like, I think it's both and. It's like, because if you go somewhere with somebody, you're still friends, but you're just in a different spot. So it's like, you're still doing the friend stuff and learning about, like, I was in Portugal with my sister recently. It's like, we're still related, but we're trying to figure out how the transportation works. It's like, so it's like, we're kind of in a stress mode because we don't know how to get somewhere. But our relationship stays the same.
Right.
So it's like, just because, but like our relationship also evolves as we work together to figure things out.
Sure.
And so it's like, now we both have this knowledge. Transportation is not a great example here, but like, how do we feel about that knowledge? Like, because we might both know the same things, but feel differently about them.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Here's maybe a good takeaway. Maybe see how this lands for you from the overall view of friendship, of the duology as a whole. It's through friendship that we realize that things are not as hopeless as they can feel sometimes. It's also through friendship that we realize we're not as like set as we can believe we are sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's like, I mean, how many conversations?
It's so much easier outside of close relationship to people to swing way far in one direction.
Yeah.
But when we are brought into really close relationships to people, it pulls us to whatever the middle ground between those two people is.
Yeah. I mean, how many conversations have you and I had over our friendship where, like, it's a moment where I'm telling you something completely unrelated to you, and now you have the same information that I have, and we're working together to figure out the best middle ground solution, and
have a totally different set of, or a totally different approach to that information.
So it's like that, I think, is just natural. I think that's healthy. And so it's like, I think that Dex and Moscap are kind of at the beginning stages of having that healthy back and forth.
Yeah.
Because truly, I mean, they're not besties yet. Like, they're not best friends. Dex might be Moscap's best friend.
100%.
But like, they're just, I don't know. They're just so, I think both characters are very real. Like, very relatable characters in their own ways. I think that's really hard to do, probably, for an author.
Yeah.
Like, make two completely contrasting characters both relatable.
Yeah.
Because there's been times where I'm shocked at the small things, or like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And it's literally something that somebody else has seen 1,000 times.
Sure.
So it's like, I think that Moscat has a lot of like childlike wonder about itself.
Mhm.
And I wonder, and I don't know if this is really mentioned in the book at all. I wonder if that is part of why Dex begins to be. It is mentioned in the book with the fish scene.
Mhm.
Moscat brings a completely new idea to Dex,
Mhm.
completely new thought, and Dex has to be like, that is really interesting that you feel that way. And
Mhm.
with the part that he needs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that is a completely new thought that I've never even once has never entered my brain, and you
Yeah.
have created an eternal dilemma inside me. It's like I think that is a normal thing that happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love the series. And I will read every book. I hope there's 100 of them. I want them.
I would keep reading the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and so that's the thing is, I very much enjoy the series as a whole.
Yeah.
So while I probably wouldn't return to the first book very often,
Yeah.
I would listen to both of them together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which I think is cool. Because they are shorter.
Mhm.
Like they're only like 4-hour audiobooks.
Yeah.
2-hour audiobooks, really.
Let's just be real.
I mean, let's just be
Yeah.
real. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good place to end it too.
Mhm.
Because like, and I don't want to get too much into the plot. Now that we've talked for an hour about
Yeah.
it. What are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I am reading the second book in the Thrawn trilogy.
Very cool.
That one is Dark Force Rising. Yes, I've right here. That's super helpful. I am about to kick off my second in the trilogy of Theodore Roosevelt
That is
biographies.
Dude, that's never gonna not be funny to me.
It's funny to me too. But I'm like really excited to start it.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the book to be released on my library app for like 3 weeks. So I finally got the notification last night, and I was like,
Yes!
yes, Teddy time.
Teddy time's crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then on a whim, so a Medium article title caught my eye this morning, and it was an article about Sharon Stone, the actress.
Mm-hmm.
It was big in like the late 80s and 90s.
Mhm.
I did not know that she had gone through some massive health challenges in the early 2000s, and then like basically her entire life blew up, and she had to like rebuild her entire life from the ground up. And the person who wrote the article just kind of very high level outlined that whole thing. And then I remembered I had seen that Sharon Stone had an autobiography that she had written recently and released it on the library app. So I was like, oh, check it out. So I did. I started this morning, and I'm about halfway through it already.
Wow.
It's a fascinating book. Really, really interesting person. Yeah, I'll let you know how it is once I finish
please
it. Because she hasn't totally gotten to the rebuilding of life yet, and that's the part I'm really curious about. But yeah, on a whim, dove into that this morning, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
I'm reading a couple, light titles. Really uplifting books. One of them is called "What Happened to You: Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing," and the other one is called "The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma." So I'm in a.
Did you get through the Vietnam story?
I sure did.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Wild man. There's a couple books that I started. The 5th season, and then Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm gonna have to probably restart those books because I started them on vacation and it was not invested. So I will read them at some point. I'm really on a nonfiction kick right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's about. I'm really on a trauma kick.
Word,
which is an interesting sentence. But it's something that I've been thinking about. It's been on my mind recently. So I wanted to do a little more digging. They've both been really good books so far. I've really enjoyed learning more about like how the brain reacts to trauma, especially like PTSD. It's like, what is that? And how differently, actually, I'm reading right now about, like developmental trauma
Mm-hmm.
for children,
Mm-hmm.
and like how trauma at young ages impacts. Which actually is interesting. Both books are talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
How trauma at young ages impacts the brain in life and relationships and stuff and all that stuff. Very fascinating.
Yeah.
That's all I
Well,
got.
I think it might be a good time to say thank you
Thanks.
to all the folks that are listening to our voices or looking at our faces, or both. Hard to say. Thank you for spending a bunch of time with us. It's the most valuable thing you have. The fact that you'd spend it with us is humbling, and thank you for honoring us with it. Yeah. Please check out our sponsor. Please check out our Patreon. Rate and review the show, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, that helps out a lot.
Helps out a ton.
And we got, as always, affiliate links in the description. If you want to purchase either of these books, highly recommend them.
Mhm.
And if you want to, support us in any way, everything that you need will be in the description.
Yep, that is right. And I think there's no better time to say, now this is podcasting.